Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you today? It's 11:28. Time for reading. Gonna chit chat for a couple minutes, and I don't want to be a broken record, y'all. But let me just tell you what I read in the news this morning in India. Where they are having the vaccine hit hard. They're finding that after the people have had this virus, some people are getting a fungus infection, a fungal infection in in their eye. And the only way to remove the infection from your body is to remove the eye. So you're finding people being blinded. We talked yesterday about some people having permanent memory issues and brain effects. Some people are left with permanent heart damage. Some people are left with lung damage from the breathing tube itself. And the virus, some people are left with permanent or long term. Some people, they're calling them long haulers, have been suffering effects now for over a year. This thing ain't no joke. I know everybody out there knows someone who was sick, maybe passed away from this virus. As we try to educate and open our minds, let's start being discerning of the information that's out there around us, right? Gain knowledge with your getting, gain understand wisdom, and finally understanding. Good morning, Alicia Brown Jones. How you doing, Miss Lady? Happy to see you. Happy for you all to be in the place. Um, we had an election last night. I don't know how many people voted, but some very clear messages were sent to politicians in this city that we want to see things being done a new way. Your voice matters, your voice counts. Let's hope that they have our best interest at heart, the best interest of our children at heart, and that we can maybe see some real changes in this city of Rochester. 'Cause we need it, don't we? Really need it. So it's 11:30. I want to get started. I want to share my screen with you and show you this woman because we're going to talk about analyzing the effectiveness of seminal texts. Remember the seminal. Okay, okay, chill yourself, chill it down, take it down a notch. Um, okay, let's try that again. It did not like me. Okay, you can be nice. Very good. Um, a seminal text means one that is very important in our history, um, something that travels through the ages, information that we should be aware of. And so, as part of our degree study here, we want to learn about that. I'm going to talk about one today you may not have heard of, and I'm going to try to reach beyond the branches of it and talk about it a little bit. But we're going to start. Going to start with this woman. I'm going to give you the picture here. And this picture, let me make it bigger. I know how. Come on, be nice. Be nice today. I'm nice, you be nice. Here we go. Waiting for the picture to stop whirling, twirling. This woman is named Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She is considered to be one of the foremothers of the feminist movement in this country. In 1848, she wrote a document called the Declaration of Sentiments. She helped to co write it, and it models the language and format of the Declaration of Independence, but it includes the right of women in it instead of just men. And this document was handed out at the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. And Seneca Falls, New York is probably about 45 minutes from Rochester, near Auburn, where Harriet Tubman has a home. So these things can be done as a day trip. Seneca Falls is beautiful. It's a little town, and there's a lot of history there, a lot of history for all of us. So I want to just read. We'll go off of this photo, and I want to read just a little bit of the beginning of the Declaration of Sentiments. Let's take a peek. This kind of sums it up. Oh, I wish I could make this bigger. Oh, how do I make that bigger, y'all? I'm going to have to read this to you because it is tiny, but I have another I have another copy for you. The beginning of it says, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one portion of the family of man to assume among the people of the earth a position different from that which they have hitherto occupied, but one to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes that impel them to such a course. So, what we're talking about is you've done something a little bit differently before, but what we need you to do is to follow the laws of nature and nature's God, to respect the opinions of everyone. So, we hold these truths to be self evident that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. We choose our leaders, and their responsibility is to protect our rights. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of those who suffer from it to refuse allegiance to it and to assist upon the institution of a new government. Mm. So she went on. And now I'm going to sum up some of the things that she talked about. The fact that women were legally dead in the eyes of the law. Women had no law rights in the eyes of the law. Women were not allowed to vote. Women had to submit to laws when they had no voice in their formation. Married women had no property rights. Husbands had legal power over and responsibility for their wives to the extent that they could imprison them or beat them with impunity, with facing no punishment. Um, Women had no defense in the cases of rape. Divorce and child custody laws favored men, giving no rights to women. Women had to pay property taxes, although they had no representation in the levying of the taxes and could not own property. And if you were given property from your family, your property became your husband's property. Most jobs were closed to women, and when they did work, they were paid only a fraction of what men earned. That is actually something that still occurs today. Women were not allowed to be doctors or lawyers. Women had no means to gain an education because no college or university would accept women students. Women could not participate in the affairs of the church. And some people believe that to this day, that that is in scripture. Women were robbed of their self confidence and self respect and made totally dependent on men. And so, on this copy here, you can actually sign a virtual copy. Let's see what that would look like if I did that. Do that because I've attached it. So, this is what the complaint was. And so, my name has now been attached to this. You can do it. So, that was the Declaration of Sentiments. But let's talk a little deeper about Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was married to an abolitionist, and with him, she attended the World's Anti-Slavery Convention. So after attending this convention, oops, did the wrong thing. Stop, y'all. So after attending this convention, Elizabeth was not inspired, but angered. She felt that society should advocate for women, particularly women, to vote. She occasionally used racist tactics and language. If you look at her early writings, she would relate the position of slaves to that of women. She sometimes said women were more deserving of given greater roles in society. However, she began to change her viewpoint and to actually work with the emancipation of slaves. So then she helped to establish a legal status for slavery. When the 14th Amendment was being ratified, she objected if it only applied to men. And so the abolitionists rejected her at one point. So she had to show that, and for a very long time in her career, very few people in the abolitionist or anti-enslavement movement wanted anything to do with her. Toward the end of her life, she developed a relationship with Frederick Douglass. But the early women's movement didn't really talk about the station of all women. There is a word called intersectionality. Intersectionality, which means that the issues of women as a whole are greater than that when you think of a woman. Typically, you would think of a white woman, but there are issues involved when you are a Black, Indigenous person of color, when you are LGBTQ, when you are poor, when you are disabled. Intersectionality says that we have to take all of these things into account when considering equality and equality overall of women. So an early intersectionist, and I'm going back to someone who was born during the time of slavery, but her parents were enslaved, and her name was Julia Cooper. And so she argued that for colored girls of the South, there is material in your worth, and that freedom, the cause of freedom is not the cause of a race or a sect or party or class. The freedom is the cause of humankind and the birthright of humanity. And she challenged white feminists to broaden their notion of liberation to include women of color and to include Black men. So, unless we greatly have mistaken the reform of our day, known as the women's movement, is essentially an embodiment, if its pioneers could only realize it, that what are you really talking about? What are we really saying? Are we really inclusive? She lived to be over 100. People talk about her today, and she is important. Her words still resonate when we talk about mass incarceration, reproductive justice, and the vulnerability of girls of color. So she never used the word intersectionality, but we talk about it today and consider her the pioneer. That's all I got. However, what you have is this page. Let me make sure it's the right page. Nope, wrong one. Let's see. Oh, yes. This is a breakdown paragraph by paragraph of the Declaration of Sentiments. There are two and only two questions that pertain to two different paragraphs here. This is the homework right here. Okay. Now there is an answer key because I would not have you, I wouldn't have you do this without an answer key. So please, right here, let me show you. Answer these questions. We are done for today. This was kind of a long one, but I wanted to talk about that and talk about how sometimes when we're talking about one thing, are we really making good points for it? If you have this Declaration of Independence and you're not including everyone, are your words true? This is our analysis. And that's it. That's all for today. Again, read the paragraph, read it through, answer two questions about paragraph 3, one question each. Paragraph 3, paragraph 19. I'm out. Peace. See you tomorrow. Let me know how you do.